get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. This is your first time tuning in. Welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your lives. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I apologize for the 20-some minute delay here due to my extensive IT training out there. I restarted my computer a bunch of times. My camera wasn't syncing up, but I found a backup cable, and we're able to piece this show together here today. And like I always say, guys, I just figure this stuff out as I go. And yeah, I just really, really appreciate all the years of IT training to just restart everything, take batteries out of shit, and just try and piece it all together, because eventually it's going to work, or you just find a backup cable and you can go live. So here we are today, you guys. Fortunately, it's a solo show today, so I am going to be doing a lane analysis today, but it is going to be for flatbeds, because my guest on Friday does a lot of reefer freight, and he will be helping me break down that market on Friday. And also, we got our weekly newsletter dropped this morning. Okay, so if you want to get in on this, though, I need you to go to thefreightcoach.com to register for it. Why? I hate when I get auto-registered for newsletters, and then I forget to unsubscribe, and then I just keep deleting it and everything. And so, because with all of my content, I want you guys to want my content. And how'd that song go? I want you to want me. So if you want to get in on it, it comes once a week, just on Wednesdays. I need you to go to my website, though, to register for it. Frankly, I don't even know who's registered for it. My team manages all of that stuff. So if you have any worries about your information being, sold or given away, I couldn't tell you how to do any of that stuff, because you guys, I actually got a real job outside of looking great on the mic. I move freight as well. So, and speaking of moving freight, we're going to talk about this. So today, on This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT, we're doing a flatbed lane analysis out there. And flatbeds right now, as some of you see, tender rejections are creeping up out there, right? Diesel prices are creeping up out there as well. They've already creeped, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. It's kind of ridiculous. And especially in this freight market that we're going to be breaking down today. So, flatbed, Ontario, California, going to Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, first and foremost, if you are going out there and trying to read a lane, miles, look at that one, 650. So days of the week very much matter on when you're going to ship this out. Obviously, if you get a carrier who's based in Utah, they just want to get home on a Friday for a Monday. But more often than not, it's going to be more expensive to pick this up on a Friday or a Thursday and deliver it on a Monday. But Monday through Thursday shipping day, you're going to find that consistency. This lane, though, as we're kind of seeing, I look at it as again, I want to find that stability out there in any lane, and I want to deliver that stability to bring it out to my customers. So, but if we're looking at this, I want you to pay attention to this one here, because if we're looking at February of 2026, it was, the average was 1,900 is what this lane was paying. But this same lane last year in February of 2025 was $1,663, right? So that's almost a $300 increase that was out there. Now, March started to creep up. You were at about 1,800 and of 2025. And obviously we're in the middle of it right now, but this is a lane to watch, right? And I think right now in particular, obviously fuel prices. California has god-awful high fuel prices. Even when everybody else in the rest of the country has decent, they still have exponentially higher fuel prices out there, but we won't get into that on the lane analysis. But I want you to start paying attention to this stuff, because these are the markers that I watch. Now, if you're out there in a line haul plus fuel rate, with your customers, whether you're in an RFP or dedicated or however that works, you're in a pretty good spot. You don't necessarily need to go in and raise your prices, not right now anyways, because you make up for the additional rate increases that you see from the carrier community in your fuel prices. But if you're in a spot market, truck in hand style situation, I think that at least in flatbed, because it's started, right? Like flatbed season has started out there right now. And how do I know that? Because I move 99% of my freight is flatbed, and I'm starting to see, I'm not going to say like extremely tight capacity out there, but you're starting to there's definitely a lot more opportunities that are moving out there. So capacity can be limited at times, but again, I look at it as if you're in a spot market, truck in hand style pricing thing, when you're going through a market shift, like it's signs are pointing that way. Like I had mentioned on Monday's show, I'm waiting to see really what happens in the Middle East here and how long that goes on before I'm going to really change my opinion on a lot of things, because like I don't want to just have to talk for the sake of talking. I actually like to give you guys advice that I apply inside of my business and how I actually win real freight with my customers. But this lane in particular, this is a lane to watch, specifically California fuel prices. Okay, so if you are out there and you're operating in anything in California, be aware of this, because the longer that fuel prices remain elevated, your rates are going to come along with it. And you need to pass that information along to your customers. I look at it like this, you guys, no matter what, I would rather lose freight in the short term because I told my customer the truth, i.e., hey, this is what's going on. This is what we'll need to move this. And then obviously there's always going to be somebody else out there who's going to say they can do it for less in the meantime. But eventually it comes back, right? Because I like to be the, kind of like the last to raise my rates and the first to drop my rates, if that makes sense. Because again, I want to get that 12-month stability out there to my customer. And but I also wanted to, so that's this breakdown on this. This is a lane to watch. I think that this summer is going to continue to see elevated rates out there in flatbed, because like out west here, you guys, again, pay attention that there's a ton of data center construction going on out there. So it's going to inevitably affect other freight markets that kind of come along with it. That is going to wrap up this week in Freight powered by DAT. It's a flatbed lane analysis out here, but I'm going to do a little bonus on this. So I had a viewer reach out about open deck and about heavy haul and over dimensional freight in regards to this. And I don't know if they're a carrier or a broker, but they were talking specifically about organizing pilot cars and permit cars. If you're a broker, the carrier that you source for this, they need to be the ones doing all of that, right? Now you mark up your load accordingly to cover those pilot car and permit costs to your customers, so they're aware of that. But I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see out there, and I hear it because some of my friends drive heavy haul. The biggest mistake that most brokers make when they go out there is they think it's a one size fits all, like a legal dry van load or a legal flatbed load. They think it doesn't matter if it's 12 wide, 14 high, or 12 wide, 14 high, or 14 wide, 16 high. So like they think it's just kind of like the same. And every single overdimensional load is different. They're all unique in their own right. But again, because like there's so many different parameters that come into this, and I want you to be aware of this. So it's like there's some great software that is out there that you can utilize, because every state is different. General rule of thumb, this is what I follow. Anything west of the Mississippi, they're all pretty similar outside of Oregon and New Mexico. Everything east of the Mississippi, everything's essentially the same, right? Anything above 13.6 high, you're going to have to pull permits. Out west, most states, you can go up to about 14 high before you need to pull permits. So, again, pay attention to those little things. But like if you're a broker, your carrier should be organizing pilot cars and permit cars, but again, pilot cars and permits, but it's on you as a broker to ensure that they have all of this information so they can go out there and organize that stuff, and they have the right dimensions, the right weights, the right everything. Because again, you guys, it is a game of inches when it comes down to it. And if you're going to go out there and quote that stuff, you got to be very aware. The more specialized the equipment, the more expensive this stuff is going to be, right? So it's like, just because a 6-axle RGN quotes it at one thing, and then you go out there and you might have to source an 8 or a 9 axle RGN for the same load because of capacity. Their rates can be more expensive because the cost to operate that equipment varies on a truck by truck basis. So that's why it's like, if you're going to go out there as a broker and get into the heavy haul and the overdimensional space, you got to be very careful about that, because you can get yourself in a couple of tricky situations right away. You might not be aware of, especially when it comes to permit costs, pilot cars, route surveys, and it's a literal state by state basis. So proceed with caution. But to the viewer's question that is out there, if you're a broker, you need to have your carrier organized by pulling permits and pilot cars. And trust me, all of the overdimensional carriers that I work with, they're very dialed in on that. Trust me, they're not going to take your load if you don't have that information. I can guarantee you that. But if you're a carrier out there and you're maybe getting into that for the first time, there's a lot of great software that will give you all of this data for you to utilize. But I think to take it a step further, if you're a carrier and you're looking to get into heavy haul, find a mentor and talk to them about it before you get into that, because it's just a completely different ball game. One of my friends, Gary Johnson, he's very active on LinkedIn. He'll tell you, he'll be the first one to tell you about a lot of this. I would look at it into getting a mentor or speaking to some people who do that before I would go in and start pulling heavy haul if I was a carrier and I was thinking about doing that. So I hope that answered your question as a whole out there. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to wrap up This Week in Freight for today. We got more coming on Friday for you guys. But let's dive into some articles here. Let's see here. Give me 2 seconds. I had to open a bunch of screens because I was trying to figure everything out here as I was going. And let's see here, 2 seconds. All right. First article we are going to break down. This one was from ttnews.com. And again, you guys, all the links to all the articles that we break down are going to be uploaded into the show notes. Because again, I really want you guys to go out there and do your own research on a lot of this stuff. But this article is ttnews.com. Samsara, they're an ELD provider out there. They expand AI driver coaching features. The coaching platform now provides support through the driver's full shift. Samsara is doubling down on agentic AI and computer vision to move beyond basic distracted driving alerts. Their new features use real-time data to coach drivers in the moment, not just after the violation occurs. This isn't just a dash cam. It's a co-pilot that can detect fatigue, drowsiness, and near miss behaviors that previously went unrecorded. For carriers, this is the ultimate exoneration machine or risk mitigator. And brokers out there, this is the data set you want for your asset right partners to have. Again, like I mentioned, you guys, I don't drive, but like my entire family does. Still to this day, I have family members that are, they drive trucks, and I'm very, again, like I say, I'm not a driver, but like I kind of got a really good idea on how drivers think. I don't know any driver that likes in like forward-facing dash cams at all, watching their every move. I'm not here to argue if they're safer or better for the truck. I'm just saying most people I know don't want them. But I also look at it is with where insurance is going, like it's such an expensive thing for your business that I think anything you can do to implement into your fleet to help reduce your premium costs, I think people are going to look at. But again, it's like I look at it is there's times out there now where again, AI doesn't know everything, but it's a phenomenal tool to utilize if you're not utilizing it. And I think that a mistake that some people go is they go from 0 to 100 with a lot of this stuff. They go from not using AI to using AI, and then it just completely screws their day up. But I think like you need to look at it as a tool to help improve your operations first and foremost. I also look at it is with where nuclear verdicts are, and this is the shitty part about a lot of this, you guys. And like I've said this on the show, unfortunately, drivers are guilty until proven innocent. I know how the court system is. You're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but drivers are guilty until proven innocent. And I look at it when we own trucks, because that's on my vision. We're going to own trucks, 5,000 of them to be exact. I want to be able to show that we weren't at fault very quickly, and video does that. So it's like outward facing cameras, I think, are the exoneration factor that a lot of carriers need. And again, I know it's just another expense to some people's businesses, but like I look at it as the faster you can prove it wasn't your driver's fault, the better off you're going to be. And I again, I'm not here to argue if it's right or wrong. I'm just saying outward facing cameras showing that you aren't at fault, I think, is the best possible thing you can do for your business. It's like, but it's also, I look at it is, when we're talking about like driver fatigue, for example, I know a lot of people push through, right? Like they push through because they got to get to that next load. They need that revenue. They're chasing that. And I completely understand that mentality. But I also look at it as no truckload is worth a human life. And if you're tired, you need to pull over. Like you need to pull over and rest and shut down for the night. I know there's some workhorses out there. But I just look at it as sometimes you're tired, you're trying to push through, but you probably shouldn't. And I just don't want to see anybody lose their life trying to push through to make a buck out there. And if this is a way to help you, like give you that coaching, like, hey, it's time to pull over, like enough's enough. I look at that as that could be a positive. Again, but like most importantly, like when we were kind of alluding to this earlier, with this, I look at it is again, this should ultimately lead to a lower insurance premium. And if this doesn't, right, like if you implement this technology into your operation and it doesn't, you need to get a discount, or you need to switch brokers. And Amy Vaha just says right here, 100% correct. And for the insurance side, this is going to give you discounts. So again, I would look at it is like if you implement this form of technology to improve the safety of your equipment and the driver and everything, and your insurance company doesn't offer you a discount for it, there's plenty of insurance agents out there. You need to check with different brokers to get a lower premium out there. But again, I look at it is for the technology that's available to us right now, I view it as such a strategic investment to your operation. And again, like I'm not going to sit here and say that we're going to replace the driver. I think I'm 40 years old. I don't think we're going to see driverless technology at mass in my lifetime. I just don't see how the public perception is going to ultimately look, because, again, you got to look at it like this. Planes have been flying themselves for a very long time with autopilot, but there's still two pilots in the cockpit for a reason. I think we're going to see that in trucking as well. I'm not saying that there isn't going to be autonomous features available, but I think we're always going to see a driver in that seat, because there's a lot of red tape that needs to be worked out. But again, you guys, it could probably all be bought, right? Like I'm sure our politicians are for sale, right? For the first time in history. So if you want autonomous trucks and you're an autonomous provider, I'm sure you could buy off Capitol Hill. But anyways, you guys, that article, ttnews.com, Samsara expands AI driver coaching feature out there. I think it's a great tool, right? Like overall, again, I'm not a driver, but like I look at it is anything I can implement into my operation to lower my overhead, I would want to explore out there. So this next article we are going to break down, though, this one is from freightwaves.com, and it is lawmakers push for ICE coordination in CDL crackdown. And 2 seconds here. The new legislated push is calling for the FMCSA to coordinate directly with ICE to crack down on CDL fraud. This stems from reports of non-citizens or individuals with fraudulent identities obtaining commercial licenses through CDL mills. And this is the compliance hammer moving into the world of national security and workforce integrity. And it signals a massive purge of paper drivers and fraudulent authorities that have been spoofing the system for years. Now, I think like just from the optics of like the headline, it very much got my attention, because, like I've talked about this on the show. I don't want there to be any, like we got to be very, very clear about illegal operations and legal operations. And I think that there are a lot of people who are muddying the waters here. Obviously for clicks, right? Like, because if you're unaware, you guys, most media companies are compensated on website traffic, views of their content and everything. So they say some pretty outlandish shit to get your eyeballs on there. And so again, I look at it like this. If I was in Secretary Duffy's shoes, I think that we need to be very clear about who we're going after, because a non-domiciled CDL holder, as long as they have filed all the paperwork properly and legally and registered with the FMCSA and they're doing the thing, they're good in my eyes, right? Again, there's a difference between them and the illegal operations. So I look at it as we got to attack the chameleon carriers. We got to make it harder for these individuals to get access to this stuff. And again, I think it goes like, we could have all the CDL mills in the world, but the DMV is the one who's ultimately issuing this CDL. Legal CDL, right? Like, I'm sure there's people who can buy it in a back alley in fucking any major city out there. But I look at it as there has to be those standards. We have to raise those standards out there. And again, that's why I had said the other week, there needs to be a set federal system across the board where whether it's in Florida, Washington, California, Texas, Minnesota, it doesn't matter. The exact same test, the exact same way to issue the CDL. And if you're proving, and if your state is proven to, because like, I'm very much a pessimist and believe that it's just cash jobs under the table. They have one DMV rep in a couple of locations that they're paying off under the table to issue the CDLs and stuff like that. But I look at it as if they have that set federal standard across the board where it's very ABC 1, 2, 3, one set system. It removes any and all prejudices from this ability to issue a CDL. So I look at like that. And again, like, if you're gonna be proven to have broken the law in any capacity, I'm of the mindset that punishment should be extremely severe, and deter people from doing this stuff. It goes on to say that, we could see a drop in cheap capacity in the article. I think that we're past that. I think that we're with now, especially with fuel being what it is, I don't know if cheap capacity is going to exist. But again, that doesn't stop people from getting access to fraudulent CDLs. Okay. And that's where you got to cut the head off of the snake, right? And going after they're on the right path. But again, I think that they need to introduce actual legislation where there is one set way of doing all of this. And again, like I've said this on this show a lot, you guys, I think we are way beyond the point of just like a couple of, I truly think it's a matter of national security. I really do. Because if you show somebody a way where they could get access to something and then cause mass damage, not saying that people out there are, doing that, but like, again, it opens the possibility that could happen, especially when you have open borders and there's a bunch of unvetted individuals who come across and all of a sudden get a CDL. What stops them, right? Like, again, there has to be standards in place for this stuff, and we have to stop this, okay? Because there is a massive difference between illegal and legal operations. We have to close any and all loopholes that give access, easy access, right? Because like, I'm not naive to think that stuff like this isn't going to continue, but they have to close all of those easy loopholes that people have been doing, because again, it's only a matter of time. Unfortunately, it's only a matter of time before terrorism comes in behind the wheel of a truck and takes out a bunch of people, or even worse, right? That's a very real thing. And that's why I hope the DOT continues to drop the absolute hammer on all of this stuff. And again, I want to see extreme, severe punishments for those shown breaking the law that endangers the public. I think like we got to get back to that, not just in kind of across the board, but especially in trucking. Like, if you're a career criminal and you're allowed to continue to do this, you got to make punishment severe. We got to get back to that. But that article, you guys, is the lawmakers pushes for ICE coordination in CDL crackdown. That one was from freightwaves.com. And third and final article we are going to be breaking down over driveonline.com. FMCSA lacks data to justify new minimum. So we broke this down a couple weeks ago, and it was talking about raising the insurance minimum from 750,000 up to a million. And it says in a shocking reversal from that, the FMCSA has admitted it currently lacks the data to justify federal increases in insurance minimums past the current $750,000. Despite industry pressure and the rise of nuclear verdicts, the agency claims they cannot prove that a higher minimum would directly lead to fewer accidents or better safety outcomes. This is a massive win for small fleets in the short term, but it could be a legal time bomb out there. So, I agree with what they're saying, like from the sense of like it's a massive win for smaller carriers, but like I also wish somebody would come up with the data of how many trucking companies out there carry 750,000 in insurance, because like I haven't seen that, you guys, like no joke, in like 12 years. Like it's been a very long time. Almost any and all carriers I work with have well over a million, if not, I've seen 5 million. I've seen very high insurance out there. So it's like I don't know. Like when we see headlines like this, again, I would like to see the actual data of how many carriers out there only carry 750,000 that are actually in business, because like I just personally haven't seen it in a very, very long time. But talking about the safety of it again, like that, I think like the FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Association or Administration, if there's no line item that shows like, hey, carriers with 750,000 are more dangerous than a million, that's what this article is saying that they couldn't find, right? Like they couldn't have any tangible proof that a higher insurance premium led to safer roads. And that's where this came down. And, I look at it as again, I don't know all operations out there. I would assume that the carriers that only have 750,000 are few and far between. So I don't know if they're even out there. So again, I can't really comment any further about that. But I see it as you got to create your own standards, right? And I think most brokers do this as a whole, that they won't work with carriers under a certain amount of things, right? Like just look at authority. There's plenty of brokers out there that you won't work with the carrier if they don't have authority for 6 months or 3 months or 12 months. I don't know. Most brokers have a very individual approach to who they will and will not set up to haul their freight. So I see a lot of this stuff. If we see this out there, like I wouldn't book a carrier that only had 750,000 in insurance, mainly because 90% of the freight I move is like 250 cargo value, right? So it's like if they don't have 250,000 in cargo, I guarantee they don't have, that they won't. Okay, let me clear it up. If they have 250,000 in cargo, they have well over a million in the liability coverage out there that they're talking about. And Stephen Tittle, Papa Freight, says my government contracts require 3 million. I primarily see 1 million mostly, but there are much higher requirements for many. Yeah, that's the thing, man. I haven't seen anything less than 1 million in a very, very long time. Amy Vaha says it's the chameleon carriers that get this, who book loads under other people's MC. If we can only weed out the bad guys. Yeah, that's like I was mentioning on that last article. I really hope they drop the absolute hammer on this stuff, Amy, and make it very, very unappealing for somebody to possibly go down that route. But that article was from overdriveonline.com. Again, I'm not necessarily surprised at the FMCSA issuing this, because again, they can't prove that the roads are any more or less safe with that. But to anybody who actually moves freight, I haven't seen anybody with 750,000 in coverage in at least over a decade at minimum out there. But that article is it, and that is going to be it. And again, you guys, sorry for the delay earlier today. I just try and figure this out, and I'll just be honest with you guys. My shit just wasn't working. I just restarted it a bunch of times and found a backup cable, and we're good. And we got the show done. And now your boy's got to get back to cold calling and moving some freight, because we got freight moving. That is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. We do have a guest on tomorrow and Friday, like I had mentioned. So yeah, we'll have some more guests back on the show here this week. And as always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show. If you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Hey, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast.